Now, in this video, we're going to talk about the duration of a mentorship relationship. In other words, how long should a mentorship relationship last? Now, that's a very good question. You may have a mentor in an area of your life where your values may not necessarily be the same, but that's okay. You can still learn from such people. Sometimes when a relationship is supposed to end, like a mentorship relationship, and then you force it to continue, it may not actually be helpful. That's the truth, okay? Hi there. Welcome back to this channel. In case you're new here and are wondering what this is all about, well, I'm a life coach, and as a life coach, I specialize in two main areas. I do goal-setting coaching, and I do Christian premarital and actually pre-dating coaching. Now, with the goal-setting coaching, I challenge my clients with a framework that I've developed to set holistic goals. And one of such goals is in the area of mentorship. So I'm just doing a series on mentorship to be able to help anybody who has questions about mentorship to be able to get answers to them. So this is part 3 of the Mentorship Series, and I'm glad you're here. In the previous 2 parts, we talked about what mentorship is all about, some myth of mentorship, and why mentorship is important. In the second video, we talked about the types of mentors. Now, in this video, we're going to talk about the duration of a mentorship relationship. In other words, how long should a mentorship relationship last? Now, that's a very good question. Now, I think that there are only 2 options, seasonal or lifetime. So a mentorship relationship can be seasonal or it could be lifetime. Now, let's go into the Bible to see some examples. If you take, for example, the relationship between Moses and Jethro, we know that in the book of Exodus, when Moses' father-in-law came around and kind of guided him through, how to lead effectively and to lead well. And we don't really see the Bible mention that relationship again. So what this means is that with seasonal mentorship relationship, the mentee stops giving the mentor the opportunity to influence the mentee's life as it used to be. So the mentor, they may still keep in touch, from time to time, but the mentor doesn't have an active role in the mentee's life anymore. And there could be so many reasons why that will be the case, and I'll share that in a jiffy. So with lifetime mentorship relationship, the relationship continues from whatever time it starts until death. So, you can meet somebody and that relationship can last for a month or 2 or a year or 6 years or 20 years, whatever. The mentor doesn't have to, see the mentee being born and then like, well, yeah, I saw you from the time you were born and I've mentored you throughout your lifetime. No, whenever it starts, it goes on until one of them is no more. So that's what lifetime mentorship relationship is all about. So let's look into the Bible and see some examples. There are so many examples of that. So for example, we see Joshua and Moses, right? It's very clear that ever since they started, interacting and having that relationship where Moses was mentoring Joshua, it went on until Moses passed, and Joshua actually, took over the leadership of the nation from Moses. So that's a very good example of a lifetime mentorship relationship. Another example could be Elijah and Elisha. Now, we definitely know that Elijah met Elisha, at the time when his life on earth was, getting close to an end, and then the relationship continued until Elisha was no more. We all know Elisha didn't die, according to the Bible, but he was no more. So I'm pretty sure that wasn't like a very long relationship, but it was lifetime, We can see another example of, say, Paul and Timothy. We see throughout Scripture, Paul keeps referencing Timothy throughout his letters, even out of the book of the book that he wrote to Timothy, which is, the letter he wrote to Timothy in 1 Timothy and 2 Timothy. He still references him in other parts of the Bible. So it's very likely that they had a lifetime mentorship relationship. And obviously, the last one would be Jesus and his disciples. From the time when he started his ministry and met his disciples, Jesus stayed with them until he was no more. So hopefully, this helps you get some clarity on the duration of mentorship relationship, either seasonal or lifetime. Now, at this point, it is important to highlight, just like I said in the previous video, that specific mentors, holistic mentors, and I said that sometimes you can start off a relationship with a mentor thinking that, well, this is going to be a specific mentor, and then eventually the person ends up becoming a holistic mentor and vice versa. That's the same principle at work here. So sometimes you may start off with someone in your mind thinking, well, this is going to be a seasonal mentor, but before you know it, life happens, you're enjoying the relationship, things seem to be working very well, you guys are clicking more and more, and then before you know it, the person becomes a lifetime mentor. And the opposite is also true. Sometimes you may start off with someone thinking that this person would definitely be a lifetime mentor in my life, but then over time you realize that that is not going to be the best, and therefore the person ends up becoming a seasonal mentor. Now, having said this, I'm going to give you 5 different instances that will likely make a mentorship relationship seasonal rather than lifetime. Either probably right from the beginning, the mentee knew that this will be seasonal because of any of these 5 reasons, or the mentee probably started off thinking that this relationship will be lifetime, and then based on any of these reasons, the relationship ends up becoming seasonal. Now, I'm going to use an acronym. If you know me very well, I like acronyms a lot. So this acronym is called TIMER, like thinking of like how long, timer, right? Should it be seasonal or lifetime? So the T for me stands for time constraint. Sometimes life happens and people get really busy. And depending on, I know we live in a digital world where you can connect with anybody in the world, anywhere, anytime. But look, sometimes life happens and, it becomes extremely difficult, almost impossible, depending on, the kind of life that, the mentor or the mentee, or both of them are living. And it just makes it practically impossible to have that ongoing relationship. Remember, I'm talking about active influence of the mentor on the mentee. So yes, they probably can still be in touch, but there may not be any active influence that the mentor may be having on the mentee. So time constraints is just a natural reason why a mentorship relationship, may be seasonal or can transition from lifetime to seasonal. Now, the I for me stands for intense life transitions. Now, life will always transition, okay, all the time. Like you are single, then suddenly you get married, then suddenly you become a father. Life will always transition. You're a student, then suddenly you start working. Life will always transition. You live with your parent, then suddenly you begin to live on your own, right? But this is, when I say intense, it means that this is like very unusual and sometimes planned, sometimes unplanned. So, for example, one of the major transitions could be geographical location change. So maybe like me, for example, I used to live in Ghana. I'm Ghanaian. I love my country. Hi, Ghana. What's up, guys? Anyway, and then I moved to the US. So just because of this transition, there are some relationships that I had, mentorship-wise, that, where the relationship is not as active as it used to be, just because I moved, okay? When I was in Rwanda as a missionary for almost 3 years. I mean, I like the specifics of this. If you know me, I like numbers very well. So for 2 years, 8 months, and 16 days. And in Rwanda, I had some mentors as well that I don't actively connect with anymore. Why? Because of the major geographical location change. There could be other life transitions as well. Maybe this mentor was helping you in a certain area, maybe in school. The person was maybe your professor and was guiding you a lot in your academic life, a specific mentor in that area. And then now you graduated from school, you started working, life became so busy and you just can't connect anymore. Or maybe the person's, influence on you, it's kind of like, well, you can't really continue like reaching out or like being active in my life. You may not be as relevant as you used to be before. So that is intense, life transition. And that is one reason why a mentorship relationship may end up becoming seasonal. Now, the third one, which is M in the TIMER acronym, is mismatched values. Mismatched values. Now, obviously, if you're going to look for a mentor, depending on the area that you're, once again, if the person is a specific mentor in the area of, let's say, academics or education, the person may not necessarily have to have like the same thing. You may have a mentor in an area of your life where your values may not necessarily, be the same, but that's okay. You can still learn from such people. But the point I'm making here is that, for example, if I have a mentor who's like a spiritual mentor or who mentors me in my spiritual life, and now the mentor suddenly says, well, I don't believe that Jesus is the Lord anymore. I don't believe in the Bible anymore. Or maybe I think that marriage is not between a man and a woman, like something very fundamental, which will impact the kind of conversations we have and the kind of influence this mentor can have on me. It just makes sense to disconnect. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean the person is bad or I'm bad. It just simply means that our values does not match, and we're going to have more issues if we keep aligning than if we disconnect. And it's just a loving thing and a very wise and mature thing to do. So values mismatch is a big thing. That life happens, people can change their values and their worldviews, and that can lead to a mentorship relationship becoming seasonal in nature. Now, E for me stands for expectations met. Now, there's some relationships, mentorship relationships, whereby they are very clear and specific goals, okay? And when I was in Rwanda, like I give an example, there's one mentor that was really guiding me through the process. I mean, I'm a foreigner. I was a foreigner there and doing my missionary work and everything. I needed someone on the land who was going to be guiding me, and this was a pastor that, I was part of his church. I would always visit him from time to time, give him updates about every single step in my life, my ministry. He was part of the board of my ministry, and he just guided guided me throughout the process for all the time I was in Rwanda. Now, when I moved from Rwanda and now that I'm in the US, I mean, recently I actually reached out to him. We had a very good conversation, but he doesn't play an active role. Like when I called him, it felt like it's been a long time, and it actually had been a long time. And we had to actually just catch up. Like, well, this is what's happening in my life right now. And then he told me the same, from his life. And it was just cool to catch up. But then I wouldn't consider him an active, mentor in my life right now. And that's okay. He's not feeling bad about it. I'll still reference him as a mentor that influenced my life, and I'll still reach out to him probably sometime in the future when I need to. But at the moment, he doesn't play an active role in my life, and that is just fine. So sometimes, when the expectations is met, I was there. I needed someone like him to guide me as long as I was in the country doing my missionary work, and he did that amazing job, and I'm so grateful to him for that. And so it can also be anything. Maybe you got a mentor who was guiding you through applying to school, and then you are done. You don't need to consistently connect, and allow him to have an active role in your life anymore. Look, as a matter of fact, sometimes when a relationship is supposed to end, like a mentorship relationship, and then you force it to continue, it may not actually be helpful. That's the truth, okay? So you just want to make sure that you are reading the in between the lines well, and asking yourself, is this relationship still relevant? If yes, by all means, pursue it. If no, look, you can just disconnect or just don't keep in touch as much as possible. And that's why I said that because of the dynamics of a mentorship relationship, the power differential is very biased towards the mentor. So the mentee to me must have that quote unquote power in this relationship to determine how much the mentor can get involved in their lives. If not, it can easily become manipulative. Now, the last reason, which is R, is relational dynamics. Okay, so simply put, look, and this happens in any kind of relationship, right? Like I was dating my first girlfriend, my second girlfriend, and I had two girlfriends before I met my wife, and all these relationships did not go well, right? Now, the fact that I was in love at the time I started dating them does not mean that when I noticed that this wasn't going well, in both cases, they broke up with me. And when they said, hey, let's end the relationship, I had to force my way into dating them. It wasn't going to work. Okay, so when the relational dynamics changes and it becomes, something that you realize is not very profitable or beneficial or helpful to one of you or both of you, it's just wise to disconnect. Like I'll give an example. After I did the first video, in this series, a friend reached out to me and shared about, asking that was very great content, and I was really blessed. And asked a question about how to get mentors, and even shared a few things about how some experience she's had with some mentors in the past has not been helpful. And one of the things she highlighted was that she noticed that a relationship actually it didn't feel like a mentorship relationship. It felt like she was just serving their needs, right? Now, as we talked through, I realized that the clarity of the relationship wasn't really clear. There wasn't any clarity about what is this all about, okay? And that's why I said I don't think it's wise to go and ask someone, can I be my mentor? Don't worry. In the next subsequent videos, I'm going to show you a better way to do it. So just stay tuned and watch all the videos in this series. So so honestly, it can happen that way, where you notice that what I sign up for is not what is happening. So this lady said, well, after she saw that, she said, you know what? I don't think this is helpful anymore. I have to disconnect, and she did. And it's better that way than still keeping in touch with someone that may not be of help to you. So sometimes relational dynamics can just change, and it can get toxic, it can get manipulative, it can become anything. And if that happens, just feel free. You're not under any obligation to stay in a relationship that is not healthy. And like I said, think about it in friendships, in dating, or whatever it is, right? And you can see that if it's not working, it's not working, and you just make the decision that is going to help you and help the relationship, and ultimately glorify God. All right, this is where we bring this session to an end. Thank you so much for staying, and watching this video to the end. I really, really appreciate that. And I hope it's been a blessing to you. Hey, if you like it, if you like this video, just like it and comment, and if you want to also, share it with others as well. And if you want to get more content like this, feel free to subscribe, and so that you don't miss any update whenever I post a new video. So I'll see you in the next one. There's so much in store for you. Like I said, this is like a 10-part series, so there's a lot more in store for you. So stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next one. What a joy.